My name is Hunter here at Weather on the Go on this Sunday, August 10th, 2025. And in this weather forecast, we're going to be focusing on severe weather and heavy rain potential across the United States over the next few days, with damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes, even flash flooding in the forecast. We're going to be looking ahead at your long range pattern as we go into late August, and of course, your tropical weather update with a system to watch in the Atlantic Ocean, all in this video. If you enjoy straightforward, accurate, and reliable weather coverage, whether it's across the United States, southern Canada, or the tropics, I got you covered on my channel, and we do it daily. So make sure to subscribe, like the video throughout if you enjoy it, press the thumbs up button, and also share it with a friend, family member, and on social media. Let's get in and start with something a little bit different here today. And today is actually August 10th, and 5 years ago on August 10th, 2020, we had our Corn Belt Derecho, which is one of the strongest modern day derechos in the United States, that moved through portions of Iowa into northern Illinois and moving into Indiana. And courtesy of the National Weather Service in Chicago, providing with this graphic, you can see at 8 o'clock in the morning, that storm system started in eastern Nebraska and southeast South Dakota, plowing its way eastward into eastern Iowa, with producing wind gusts of up to 440 miles per hour. Half of the canopy of trees in the city of Cedar Rapids were destroyed. Silos and many structures were destroyed as well, before slowly weakening, pushing eastward toward Lake Michigan, and eventually ending there by 7 p.m. in northeastern Indiana and south central lower Michigan. Now, that did spawn several tornadoes. In fact, 15 tornadoes were recorded in the Chicagoland area alone in northeastern Illinois, and a lot of those were, of course, EF0s or EF1s, but nonetheless, tornadoes were recorded, and over a dozen of them as well, into the Chicagoland area. Now, back to the forecast. Last night into the Wisconsin State Fair, there was a lot of flooding. You've probably seen pictures and videos going around on social media. That was true. Into the Milwaukee area, we actually saw up to around 10 inches of rainfall in a very short amount of time, leading to the closure of the Wisconsin State Fair there, and that was a devastating flooding event. Hopefully everybody stayed safe from that. Now, moving forward into this evening, we are still looking at the threat for severe weather, this time a little bit further to the south, across Colorado into southwestern Kansas and northwestern Oklahoma, including the Oklahoma Panhandle. That in the yellow is a 2 out of 5 slight risk, where scattered severe thunderstorms are possible. In the dark green, across portions of the Midwest, stretching from southeast Wisconsin, so watch out again in Milwaukee, down towards Chicago, St. Louis, and into the areas near Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Fayetteville. That is where we have an isolated threat for severe weather in the dark green. The most likely hazards the storms could bring will be 60 to 70 mile per hour caliber winds, in addition to some quarter-size hail. The hail threat is highest across the Front Range in eastern Colorado down there into northeastern New Mexico, and then the tornado threat is low, but it's not zero. In the green, this is a 2% chance of tornadoes into eastern Colorado, northeastern New Mexico, and extending along the Oklahoma-Kansas state line, including parts of the Oklahoma Panhandle. Now, moving into tomorrow on Monday, August 11th, there is a small area of severe weather up here into eastern North Dakota and northwest Minnesota, with a 1 out of 5 marginal risk, again, isolated coverage of storms, and then another area down near Amarillo and Lubbock in the Texas Panhandle. And back here into eastern New Mexico, where again isolated severe weather will be possible, mainly looking at some 60 mile per hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. The tornado threat, thankfully, tomorrow is less than 2%, so mainly again just winds and hail. So for this evening, we got a lot of surface-based CAPE. This is your convective available potential energy. The higher the value, the more likely the scenario will be for severe weather to form. And you can see it's over 4,000 joules per kilogram, which equates to extreme storm energy right there on the Kansas and Oklahoma state line. So as we go through this evening, we're going to watch those storms bubbling up back west along the Front Range there of the Rockies into eastern Colorado, into northeast New Mexico. And by the way, the white is the cloud cover and the blue is the sunshine. So you can see as we go into the evening hours, we're going to see this nasty cluster of showers and storms moving slowly eastward out of Colorado and New Mexico into the northern Texas Panhandle, the Oklahoma Panhandle, and then into southern Kansas, and this could produce not only damaging winds and hail and an isolated tornado, but eventually evolving into a heavy rain and flash flooding threat overnight tonight into early Monday. Those storms will be on a weakening trend as they approach Kansas City and down toward Joplin, Missouri as we go into tomorrow morning, and then as we go into the afternoon, additional storms may start to fire up across the plains. These storms are going to be more isolated, widely scattered. One area up there into the Dakotas and into Minnesota. Another area back here into the Texas Panhandle and eastern New Mexico we have to watch. Maybe a third cluster towards the Kansas City metro as well. Overall, looking at the heaviest rains expected across southern Kansas and northern Oklahoma, stretching into southwestern Missouri. That's where we could see widespread 1 to 3 inches of rain with locally higher amounts than 3 inches possible, where those torrential rains move over the same area, which is called training of thunderstorms, and that could lead to some flash flooding. Moving into the eastern U.S., we had a lot of sunshine here this Sunday afternoon, and that continues here this evening before the sun sets, and mostly clear skies can be found from the Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast tonight, so enjoy a starry night up there. Further to the south, we are looking at cloud cover and some thunderstorms across the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. That's been a theme over the past couple of days. That will likely continue tonight and more so into the day on Monday as well, so unsettled it will be across the southeast going into Monday. Rainfall amounts, again, an additional 1 to 2 inches along the Carolina coast, Wilmington, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, and then down towards Savannah, Georgia, with a sporadic half-inch to an inch here or there. Atlanta, Georgia, down there toward Gainesville, Florida, Lakeland, Jacksonville, those areas, keeping a close eye on that through Tuesday morning. Western U.S. been pretty dry here this afternoon outside of areas into Southern California, popping up a storm cell or two there, and into southeastern Arizona and into New Mexico where we got a couple of thunderstorm cells. Other than that, things will be pretty quiet. Overnight, though, we're going to see some cloud cover moving south out of Canada, out of Alberta, into Montana. That could bring some mostly cloudy skies, but eventually some showers and storms to northeastern Montana going into Monday morning, and then those will clear out. But again, we're watching more storms forming into southeastern Arizona, but especially eastern and southeastern New Mexico. Those could be severe going into Monday evening. Most of the west will be dry outside of the areas we're mentioning, and the northeastern Montana, eastern New Mexico, southeast Arizona. Those are the areas that'll see the rainfall. If you're in the immediate west coast across the Seattle area, Portland, Sacramento Valley, and California, going to be bone dry as we go through 7 a.m. on Tuesday, August the 12th. Now going into Tuesday, August 12th, severe weather is not expected anywhere across the United States where you see this light green. This is a 0 out of 5 general garden variety thunderstorm. So just generally some locally heavy rainfall, some thunder and lightning as you get with typical thunderstorms. That's what we're dealing with on Tuesday. Here were our high temperatures this afternoon. Another scorcher of a day it was across the desert southwest, back here into the southern plains, including the Red River Valley. Triple-digit heat. We actually saw some widespread heat up into the Pacific Northwest as well. Washington State, Oregon, and Northern California getting well into the 90s and triple digits. And there will be a heat wave out there over the next couple of days. That heat eventually will shift east into the plains by the middle of this upcoming work week. And that means the Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, Wyoming, you guys will all start to heat up into the middle and upper 90s by Wednesday, August 13th, and then heating up in the Midwest by Friday, getting back into the upper 80s, places like Des Moines, Milwaukee, Chicago, and Indianapolis, St. Louis, and Kansas City, and those heat index values will be growing by the time we get to the end of the week. Low temperatures to start here, your Monday morning, is going to be pretty muggy out there from portions of the Great Lakes down here into the deep south, where areas in Michigan could be seeing some record warm lows in the low and mid 70s to start your Monday morning. And again, we are seeing a lot of heat out there as we go through the week ahead. So keeping an eye on that. If you are working outdoors, especially by the time we get to Friday, August 15th, look at these heat index values across the Midwest, back into the triple digits for places like Omaha, Des Moines, Kansas City, into the 90s for Chicago and near Milwaukee, and then all the way up to the Twin Cities there as well. So make sure to hydrate throughout the week, especially later in the week when the extreme heat does return. Now, precipitation will return as well. We have a couple of things happening. The main storm track up here in southern Canada will provide the Canadian prairies with well above normal precipitation. Same thing up here into the upper Midwest. We'll have pieces of energy from southern Canada breaking off and heading southeast across the U.S. U.S.-Canadian border into places like the eastern Dakotas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, bringing back the threat for severe weather and heavy rainfall, especially later on the work week. Again, we're talking between Monday, August 11th and Friday, August 15th. We're talking around the 14th, 15th time frame for that to come back, and then the tropical moisture down here into the southeast. So Tuesday morning, we got a low pressure there in northern Ontario near the Hudson Bay. That's going to drag a cold front across portions of the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley. Isolated to scattered thunderstorms are promised along that front, and not everybody will see these, but definitely producing some heavy rainfall whenever you see a storm out your door. And then another disturbance, pretty strong system in Saskatchewan by Wednesday night and Thursday morning. We'll drag another cold front and some complexes of storms into the northern U.S., the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. By the time we get to Thursday and Friday, might have to watch for more severe weather there. Other than that, by the time we get to next weekend, we're just going to continue to see that northwesterly flow and additional rounds of severe weather, again, mainly confined to the northern plains and the upper Midwest. Rainfall amounts are going to be hit or miss in the middle of the country. You got to go further to the south and east, or you got to go further up to the north, especially closer to Canada you get, the more likely rainfall will be. Again, the eastern Dakotas, Minnesota, northern Wisconsin are the prime candidates to see a couple inches of rainfall between that Wednesday and Friday time frame here between the 13th and 15th of August. Otherwise, the heaviest rains will be again ticketed for the Carolinas with the tropical moisture this week. Long range forecast as we go into the third week of August, Monday, August 18th through Friday, August 22nd. Big ridge of high pressure will anchor itself climatologically speaking, and when it anchors itself across the desert southwest, we're talking about extreme heat out there. So the western U.S. in general, the Rockies included, will be getting a lot hotter once we get into the third week of August, trending near normal to slightly below normal at times in the east, especially along and east of the Mississippi River. And that's also where the precipitation will be most favored, is along and east of the Mississippi River. And that actually might be more tied to tropical weather influence along the eastern seaboard. And if that's the case, then the central U.S., even the upper Midwest, will start to dry out by the third week of August. Let's talk about the tropics here. In the East Pacific, we got Hurricane Henriette that is just to the north of the Hawaiian Islands. That will be moving away from Hawaii. We have Tropical Storm Evo that is hanging on to a thread as a tropical storm name. This will likely be downgraded to a tropical depression here very soon. First, looking at Category 1, Henriette, just to the north of Hawaii. Maximum sustained winds 80 miles an hour, moving quickly to the northwest at 17 miles per hour. We look at Tropical Storm Evo. This is west-southwest of the Baja of California of Mexico. And by the time we talk about this tomorrow, folks, this is probably going to be a tropical depression or just a post-tropical cyclone in general. Right now, maximum sustained winds 40 miles an hour, moving west-northwest at 12 miles per hour. That is what we are seeing. And you can see in the North Pacific, it is just going to be some fish storms out there. Again, maybe some indirect rip current risk for Hawaii. Watching out for that. If you're boating north of Hawaii, might want to keep an eye on Henriette over the next couple of days. Other than that, very quiet there in the East Pacific. Will it be quiet as we go into the third week of August? There is a trend that we could see another tropical depression or weak tropical storm develop from the Central America gyre further to the west into the East Pacific Basin, and that could take another new name, so we'll keep an eye on that once we get into the middle of August. Now, what you are looking at currently is the system, which is Invest 97L, just to the west of Africa, near the Cape Verde Islands, and this is actually the start of what likely will become a hurricane closer towards the Caribbean or the Southwest Atlantic by the time we get towards the middle of August. So looking here, this is the National Hurricane Center's outlook from Miami, Florida. 90% chance of a system developing there from the Cape Verde Islands, west of Africa, all the way through the main development region and just to the northeast of the Leeward Islands. And this is a 7-day cone. So by day 7, this system would be just north or north-northeast of the Leeward Islands. So we look here at that system. Again, pretty healthy looking system here that is moving across the Cape Verde Islands as a weaker system. Again, it's Invest 97L. Here's ensemble guidance from the European model. This is around 51 members, and not all these L's mean there's different low pressure systems. They're basically just showing the track and the intensity of the system, and the most of them are actually north of the Leeward Islands, with a couple stragglers going further west toward the eastern Bahamas, most likely curving out into the southwest Atlantic between Bermuda and Puerto Rico, and then there's some that curve it actually east of Bermuda. So we don't know past day 7, once it gets past the Leeward Islands to the north, where this will go. Will it go further west? Will it go further north, or just straight northwest? That is the million-dollar question. We look at the GFS ensemble guidance. This has a few less members. This is around 21 members on here, and most of them are actually starting to recurve that because stronger low-pressure systems, they gain latitude. So we're going to start to see them move northward rather than west. If it remains weak, it will continue to move more longitude like westward. So we're going to keep an eye on that as we go here through the middle of August for sure. Here's the concern, right? The thermodynamic environment space is very favorable here in the Southwest Atlantic Basin for a rapidly intensifying system once it passes to the north of the Leeward Islands. Where it's at the next several days is going to be in some cooler water, and you can see it is well above the historical average for your water temperatures just to the north of Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti, and these areas need to watch it closely. Even the Bahamas, you want to be on high alert in case this system stays flatter to the west and impacts you. So we're going to keep an eye on this as we go further along. The intensity model guidance is all over the place right now. You're going to see some guidance showing a Cat 4. You're going to see some guidance in the middle of the road around a Cat 1, 2. And some of them are just going to stay as a tropical storm. That is needing to be figured out as we get closer here into next week. But there's no need to panic. Just keep an eye to the forecast if you live into the Caribbean, the Bahamas, or the east coast of the United States. Again, we are keeping a very close eye on this for the foreseeable future. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoy these straightforward, accurate, and reliable weather forecasts that we do daily here on the channel, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. We'll have another video or two out for you tomorrow during the late morning, early afternoon, and then likely again in the evening. So make sure you're subscribed, turn on post notifications so you're notified for future videos and live streams as well. Like the video if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, family member, and on social media. I really do appreciate it. And of course, if you have any comments, questions, and concerns, jot them down in the comment section down below this video. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for the support, and I hope everyone has a wonderful and safe rest of their weekend out there.